How do you guys feel about the terms high functioning and low functioning? Chris,
Well,
could I repeat the question? How do you?
oh no, I know exactly what the question was. I remember exactly what the question was. It's just okay, deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Things with me, I have a mathematics degree and I can solve a Rubik's Cube, and I'm on 3 novels and counting. I am very high functioning, except when I'm not. And that little fact gets very much glossed over. And I wish I could remember for the life of me which advocate it was who said this. But the quote is, the problem with being high functioning is that your challenges are ignored or assumed to not exist. And the problem with being low functioning is that your strengths are ignored or just assumed to not exist. And perhaps the best way I can demonstrate this from my professional history is I once worked in a special school which had 2 different sites, one of which had students with very complex, profound learning disabilities. And the other block had students who were very similar to me when I was at their age, except some had some form of what other people might call mild academic learning difficulties, but people who might be able to pass formal examinations. To be frank, most of them didn't have any kind of learning difficulties. They were just bullied out of mainstream education. Mm. Now, other people might say, oh, so there's a low functioning block and a high functioning block. But I often have to remind people to be very wary of self-fulfilling prophecies. If you take a low functioning student, then say, oh, okay, well, this person's low function, so we won't teach them how to cook because they're not going to understand it. We're not going to teach them how to dress themselves. We're not going to teach them personal hygiene because they're not going to understand it. And we're certainly never going to even enter the realm of talking about them getting a job because they won't manage it. And then 10 years later, student leaves school, unable to dress themselves with no personal hygiene skills, can't cook, and oh, isn't autism such a terrible thing that's been done to that person? When really, a lot of the time, an autistic person or anyone with neurological conditions, etc., whatever you want to call it, often the biggest setback doesn't come from the disability or diverse ability. It comes from the obstacles put in people's ways by people who get to choose what you learn and what you don't learn. Anyway, so that was one of my sites where I had students with complex learning disabilities who, looking back, I can see the limits that other well-meaning staff members were placing upon them. Once in a while, I also fell into the trap of doing this. It is so easy to fall into. Yeah. And then on the other side, there were students who only really entered special education after they tried to kill themselves. Mm. But don't worry, they're high functioning, so they've got no problems. So yeah, that's my opinion about that.
Yes.